Hi, and thanks for joining me for this sourcing webinar. We're going to look at one specific job requirement and analyze it. We will analyze the technical vocabulary, we will analyze the role itself, and then dive deeper to how to actually find the specific IT professional. So let's dive right in. So the backend PHP Laravel developer, remote position, the salary is still to be determined. So a remote position, and the keywords, as you guess, are PHP and Laravel, right? So at first it seems straightforward. So we will see. Last week we reviewed quite a complicated position. If you recall, that was TypeScript PHP developer. So that was quite confusing because it was the full stack developer with the JavaScript and TypeScript experience, but also PHP. So it's quite messy, right? But we were able to actually identify what is must have and what is just nice to have. And probably today we will have something a little more straightforward. So that will be good, right? Do you guys like straightforward positions, straightforward openings? What do you prefer more? Say, I'll give you three options. One is quite straightforward. So for example, a Python backend developer or PHP backend developer. The second option would be quite complex. So for example, the one we had last week. So a full stack TypeScript developer with PHP experience and whatnot. And the third one would be a manager. So for example, a VP of engineering or a CTO. So what do you guys prefer? What do you enjoy more? An easy and straightforward role, because everything has some pros and cons, right? The easy and straightforward could get a little boring. The very complicated may be difficult to find, and the CTOs or VP of engineering may be, I don't know, hard to reach at some point. So let me know in chat, 1, 2, or 3. What do you prefer more? 1, 2, or 3. Easy, difficult, or managers? Easy, difficult, or managers? No, nothing, nobody? You don't prefer anything? Or you just take whatever comes? So you take both juniors and seniors and managers and everything? Mocht, I know you may slightly prefer these managerial positions, right? Yes, all. Definitely. Hopefully it goes well with Sebastian, right, for the CTO position. Yeah, we are looking at a backend PHP developer. So at first it looks quite straightforward because PHP we know is the programming language, right? So we need someone who knows PHP. So there are some more languages like C# or JavaScript, but in this case, they just want the developer to focus, to specialize on PHP. And Laravel is the framework. So again, if you open up these mind maps, you will see different frameworks. So frameworks, when it comes to the PHP programming landscape, Laravel and Symfony are the two most popular frameworks, Laravel and Symfony. So in this case, this company, and it's a new startup, so everything they are building on a greenfield. So they have chosen the most popular framework, which is Laravel. So quite cool, right? So the developer will not need to know, I don't know, a JavaScript or TypeScript or Node.js. It's just PHP Laravel specialist. So far that's easy. So what you will do, you will develop platform's backend. Okay, so as a backend developer, we'll develop the backend platform, PHP, the programming language, Laravel framework, REST APIs. In fact, the API is the interface that connects different microservices. So backend developer actually creates APIs. So that's what they do. They create APIs. And the most common, the most frequent way are the REST, also called the RESTful APIs. So it's the mainstream these days among developers. So it's a nice keyword to have on a JD, but essentially it's the mainstream anyway. So everyone knows that APIs are RESTful at the end of the day. And MySQL, that's a database. Again, one of the most popular ones. So the very popular stack is called LAMP, L-A-M-P. I just wrote it in chat. So Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So these technologies go together naturally. Developers like to use Linux with PHP, with Apache, and with MySQL. So these technologies go together frequently, and a PHP backend developer is very likely to know MySQL. And that's what they will do anyway in this company. So it's very straightforward. Gradual development of the platform into a data-driven adaptive system. Prepare endpoints in RESTful APIs for the front-end colleague who is coding in React.js, and cover basic DevOps activities. And they also mention Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP stack. So that's what they have decided to build their products on. So this is it. So relatively straightforward, right? If you look at the must-have requirements, we need someone who has 4 or 5 years of experience, so some mid-level, mid-year kind of a developer who has focused on backend, or probably even full stack before, but now wants to focus solely on backend. And there are some developers who prefer working on the full stack. Some developers only want to specialize on backend, and other developers only want to specialize on the front end. So we need to find the one who only wants to focus on backend, because this is the backend position, not a full stack, but the backend position. They will need to create REST APIs with PHP Laravel, that's clear, and the language either Czech or Slovak or English. So English is not a requirement because the other team members speak Slovak or Czech, however, they are also fluent in English. So if someone will join from, I know, Hungary or Poland or Bulgaria, Romania, or Portugal, then they will communicate in English, but it's not a must-have requirement as it was in those previous JDs, probably you recall. So the nice-to-have skill would be ability to come up with some technical solutions. So, you know, juniors are usually not able to come up with technical architecture suggestions because they are too junior. So usually this determines that someone is more senior. The knowledge of React.js would be potentially an advantage just because the backend developer would know how to help the front-end colleague if needed, but it's not a must-have requirement by any means for a backend developer. And some DevOps experience just to make sure they keep progressing when it comes to the DevOps best practices adoption. Some benefits, obviously, as a startup, there is some ESOP, there is some career growth opportunity. So even last time I was mentioning the relationship between a feature and a benefit, right? So they for example, support career growth, right? What does it mean really? Like people can grow everywhere, right? Like in any company, you join as a, I don't know, receptionist somewhere, and you can learn how to do something, you know, beyond opening the doors, right? As a receptionist. So it's like everywhere you can learn something if you want. But what else? Like, what does it really mean? What is unique about this particular opportunity? So, for example, the fact that the company is small, we are talking about just 5 people, probably, you know, 4 or 5 people, so very small, which means that the new joiner can really quickly progress to the more senior position, like VP of engineering or a CTO, because in a small team, like someone needs to become the CTO. In a large organization, there are lots of people who are competing against each other to become the CTO. But in a small company, like anyone can become a CTO effectively. So the fact that it's a small team means that the developer can progress their career faster. And it's fully remote, so the developer can work remotely. That's, I guess, at the mainstream these days. It's not like, actually just 2-3 weeks ago, we were looking at some data positions where they required on-site, so I'm not generalizing, but most of the positions these days are remote anyway. So it's quite straightforward, right? Like now when you look at it, I'm sure you would be able to go through your database and identify, you know, dozens and dozens of PHP developers who know Laravel. But there are also PHP developers who know some other frameworks. So for example, Zend, which is the more obsolete framework, or Slim, for example, which is not obsolete, but it's not as mainstream and it's not as similar as Laravel. Or for example, Cake PHP, YEE is also the one that's more obsolete. So you know, PHP is the major skill. It's the programming language the developer needs to know, plus Laravel. Okay, so if you have a database, if you have a spreadsheet, if you have some application tracking system in place, then you should keep track of both skills, the programming language plus the framework the person has used. And Laravel and Symfony are quite similar, these together. So it happens that the hiring manager would consider a PHP developer who has experience with one of these two, okay, with either Laravel or Symfony. In this case, just because the team is so small, and this is effectively just the second developer to join the team, they would rather have someone who has already been working with Laravel, understands the architecture of the code, and can just hit the ground running, as they say. Okay, so that's why in this case, they would not really appreciate someone who has never used Laravel, even though he could be or she could be a strong PHP developer. But in some other setup, for example, in a larger team of 10 developers, it's more likely that a larger team would allow a PHP developer who used some other framework in the past to join them. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. It's quite straightforward, right? Like if you just look at it, the languages and the time zones probably also indicate where to look for or who to look for. So they work remote. So could be even someone from, I don't know, probably Australia. They don't have any like specific requirement about the time zone. Like obviously they prefer someone who is in the same time zone. That I guess is a common rule always. And this is also a long-term engagement. So they are looking for someone who would be working with them in the next, I don't know, 2 years or so, just because they build their platform, they build a product that is helping aspiring entrepreneurs learn the essential skills to build a business. So it's like they compare it with a Duolingo or Headspace, but in this case, it's for developing the entrepreneurial skills. So it's quite cool. It's a nice product. They fundraised money from investors, so that's why they are now expanding the team. And yeah, looking for this backend developer. So it's very, very straightforward, right? I guess with a position like this, it will be more difficult to actually identify who to even invite for an interview, because you can get overwhelmed with too many applicants, just because there are so many PHP Laravel backend developers out there. And they don't have any other specific requirements, like for example, about industry or past experience with specific projects. And it's by any means not as difficult position as a data science team lead, which we analyzed just 2 weeks ago. So this is one of these easier, more straightforward positions. Okay, so then how would we find this developer? What would we ask him? What would be the screening questions? That's obviously what we can also discuss. So so why don't we look at this mind map also, just to remind us what are some other key terms that we need to remember when screening and interviewing these PHP developers. So obviously the stack LAMP, as I mentioned, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. That's something we need to know. Also in JavaScript, there is this other alternative called MEAN, MEAN, or MERN, Mongo, Express, React, and Node.js. Right. So each of these stacks have some preferred set of tools developers like to use together. And they use some IDEs. So IDE is like integrated development environment. So these are the tools they use while writing code. For example, PHP Storm is the tool that developers use to not just write code, but also to publish the code to GitHub and review the code with each other. There are some other alternatives like Eclipse or Zen Studio or Sublime or Atom, Notepad, Coda. So quite a lot of tools. So you can, for example, ask the developer just at the beginning of the screening call or interview, what is their favorite tool when developing some application? What's their favorite IDE? If you'd like to use some IT vocabulary, what's your favorite IDE? And they will be like, oh wow, like this person really knows the IT vocabulary. The versions obviously version 5.6 and 5.7 are those older versions. Version 7, 7.1 to 4 are more recent. And by the way, we are preparing revamp of these mind maps. So in a month or two, we should release a new version of these mind maps with updated frameworks and everything. So stay tuned. That will be an exciting update. The testing frameworks, usually, especially with the DevOps environment, with the DevOps setup, the automated testing is necessary because DevOps cannot work really effectively without automated testing. And in each landscape, in each programming language, there are some testing frameworks. So for example, PHP has PHP Unit or Selenium. And if you scroll down to, for example, or scroll up to C#, well, in C#, there is, for example, MS Test, NUnit, XUnit. Okay, so also with Java, there are some other testing frameworks. Where are they? Right here, JUnit, Selenium, Cucumber. So you can again just ask a developer what testing framework does he or she use while developing a new product. And or you can ask directly, specifically. You can ask in the PHP landscape. You can ask just casually. So have you used PHP Unit or have you used Selenium to test your code? The frameworks we already covered. The roles, full stack or backend. Probably you know by now that PHP cannot be used for the front end. It's just backend. So usually the backend developers or full stack developers use it. But full stack developers need to use something else on the front end, which is JavaScript. So a full stack PHP developer would be PHP on the backend and JavaScript on the front end. So JavaScript with React or Angular, as you can see right here on top right. Okay, but now we are only looking for a PHP backend developer who would be creating REST APIs, which is the mainstream. Okay, cool. So this is clear. If there are no questions, then I guess we will just continue to here. No, search in Recruiter, LinkedIn Recruiter, just because we have more options to look for developers with specific skills or keywords. And last time it was quite fun, right? We were looking for different combinations. What was it? The TypeScript, right? With TypeScript with PHP and React and Node.js. So that was a quite good Boolean search. Now, just a PHP developer in title, but obviously there are some other titles we need to consider. For example, backend developer with PHP in skills. So we could have, for example, here a new title, say just backend developer. Okay, but the backend developer without any other filter could also be C#, right? Or a JavaScript backend developer. So that's why we need to include PHP skill here in skills. And we still have 250,000 developers. So the locations we can restrict to, say, Czech Republic for now, because the headquarters of this company is in Prague. So we could start with Czech Republic. Prague, Brno are the IT hubs in the Czech Republic. So for example, Daniel Kapral. But you don't want really juniors, and also you don't want to find too senior developers, because they would be overqualified and way too expensive. So it's just something we need to keep in mind. So the years of experience, probably between at least three, 4, well, let's say 3 to maybe 6 could be 6, because their budget is rather low. You know, it's a startup in the initial phase. They fundraise money, but they also don't want to just blast it out of the window. So they are at the stage when they rather want to get someone who is rather at the beginning of their career, not too high salary expectations. So maybe 3 to 5 years of experience, 3 to 5, 4 to 5. Okay, so now we have 495 candidates. That's better. And we also want someone who used Laravel. So let's have it in the keyword Laravel framework. So we have 91 candidates, and that's great. Out of these 91, probably half will be really good, a really good set of candidates, and the other half has probably shifted their focus already. They may be focusing on some other technology by now. So we can open up the first one, Jan Ondracek, and we can open up also the second one, Ivan Puskailer. And you can see right here highlighted PHP developer, web developer. So there is something good. He uses Netty framework. By the way, Netty framework is really popular in the Czech Republic, but it's not popular outside of the Czech Republic. I'm not saying at all, but it's just far from, because the Netty framework has been developed in the Czech Republic. So the community around it is very strong. These open source contributors are proud of developing this framework, but people outside of Czech Republic don't care as much about Netty, just because there is Laravel and Symfony with a much bigger community and better documentation and whatnot. So he used Symfony. He used Netty also last year. He used Netty and Symfony, and he used Laravel 2 years ago, and only for 3 months, right? So this doesn't look like someone who is confident with Laravel, someone who has been working with it in production and gained experience. So this candidate would not be a good fit, right? So even if we find, based on the technical skills, based on the title, we find a candidate who matches the filters, but now when we look at the profile and we just use some common sense, we can get to the conclusion that this would not be the best candidate because he does not have experience with Laravel deep enough. So I'll close him. What about Ivan? He wrote his about section in Czech, so that's quite unfortunate. But he writes about Laravel. He used PHP here, PHP. So he focuses on PHP, cool. But we don't know when did he use Laravel. If he used it in the very last project, where he was rather a full stack developer. So he used also JavaScript, he used Angular with jQuery. So these are the front-end technologies. So he does not specialize only on backend. Also in India, he focused on PHP plus JavaScript. So rather a full stack developer. And for the last 10 months, we don't know. So, doesn't look like a developer who only specializes on backend. So I'll close his profile also. And let's see, Pavel, backend developer, and Lena and Maxim. I'll open up these three. So I'm currently working as a backend TypeScript developer. Interesting. It reminds me some of these developers we were looking at last week. So the TypeScript could be used on the backend and also front end. So last week we were looking for a full stack TypeScript developer, but not today. Today we are looking for a PHP backend developer. So he was for less than a year Laravel PHP web developer, and he was just studying in university, so not strong enough because for the last 2.5 years, most likely he only uses TypeScript, which is what he mentions in his about section. So I'll close him. What about Lena? Lena is a backend developer with front-end knowledge. Well, the front-end knowledge is nice to have. It's an advantage. She works closely with customers, so backend developer, application developer, PHP developer remote. So she used Symfony framework right here. PHP. We don't see where did she use Laravel. We only see it in skills, but maybe, and now I'm just assuming, obviously, based on this limited information on her profile, she hasn't used it in LMC because she used Symfony. So it's quite unlikely she would use both Symfony and Laravel. So she wrote Symfony, so she used Symfony here, and she used Symfony also here. So not that strong experience with Laravel. I mean, she has some, but not the best fit, not the right fit, not the fit we are looking at. PHP developer for the last 2 years and full stack before. Well, we could ask him. Let's see if he mentions some other backend frameworks. So Git is not a framework, JavaScript is not, web developer Codeception, YEE is the old one, RabbitMQ, OOP PHP unit is the testing framework, Redis HTML. So actually he only from these new frameworks mentions Laravel. So we can assume now that he has been using Laravel in this company and probably also here. So for 3-4 years, so maybe he could be a good fit. So for 2.5 years he used Laravel here, and for 2 years here, maybe I'll just keep him open and let's see. maybe someone else will be even better fit. Let's open up Jan and Patrick. So he's implementing some internal system in PHP version 5.6. It is the one that you've seen on the mind map. The more recent version 7. It's great that I mentioned it just a while ago, so you have this context, what is older, what is newer. The version 6 was, by the way, skipped in PHP. They were just like, who cares about version 6? We'll skip it. So they introduced version 7. He used JavaScript, jQuery, cool. So for 6 years, he is developing the some like internal system in this company called Partners Group, Partners Financial Services. It looks like he's a PHP backend developer, and it really looks like he uses Laravel, so he could be a good fit. Maybe he's also a front-end developer, so backend plus front-end, full stack, but it doesn't hurt, right? It's okay. He does not mention any front-end framework, so maybe he's not like a real full-stack developer. It actually really looks like a backend developer only. He does not mention React, he does not mention Angular, which in this case it's okay. It indicates he really focuses on the backend with Laravel. It's also on the first place here, so probably really important also in his eyes. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this could be, well, on the other hand, 6 years could be a little over the budget. So if they're looking for someone 3 to 5, maybe this person with 6 years of experience would ask too much. No, now that I'm thinking about it, not the best fit still. So let's keep looking. I'm a PHP Python developer. In Python they use Django, and in PHP Laravel. So backend, PHP backend developer. No, it's probably. I mean, it doesn't hurt that he also uses Python. That's all right. And he uses Laravel. So the number of years of experience is 2, 4, 5, 6 also, 6.5. Probably a little too much, right? Let's try David or Matush. And we will find someone, you will see, just in a few seconds. I'm sure we will find someone with just the right level of experience. David, he was a team lead, PHP developer, key account manager. It's questionable if he would be interested in such position, but he actually became a backend developer. So why not? On the other hand, he uses PHP with Laravel, and also he uses Symfony and Vue.js. He focused on Laravel, then he was a team lead in the same company, so we can assume that he also kept using Laravel, right, for the next 10 months. So we are talking about 2 years, or a little over 2 years. And now, but he just joined 2 months ago, so it's quite unlikely he would join another company right now. So I'll close him. And Matush, PHP developer for 2 years and for 4 years here. So it's like 5 years, 6 years in total. And he's only PHP and Laravel. So probably like this is the strongest developer so far when it comes to PHP Laravel combination. It's again questionable if he's not a little too overqualified. He's Simple digital agency, but he's a PHP developer. So unless it is his agency or he somehow it's like one-man show, but still he develops his own agency, in that case he would most likely not join this startup. But otherwise, could be. I mean, you know, he only focuses on PHP. He focuses on Laravel, so that's great. That's a great fit. He's not distracted with Python, and he's not distracted with front end, which is also good. We are looking for someone who only focuses on PHP and Laravel. Now, my question is just, is he not too expensive because he has 6 years of experience? We could ask, obviously, his salary expectations. Laravel, software developer. He was the Java developer before. So he used PHP with Laravel for another 4 or 5 years, and then 3 years here and one. Like he's way overqualified. We are looking at 8 years of experience. 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, this is how come he's here? I thought the search was restricted to 6 years. So let's try to restrict it to 5 years only. 3 to 5. And let's see, Michal Hubatka. So he focuses on backend. He worked with PHP and Laravel also as a web developer, so freelance web developer. And also he used PHP here. So 1, 2, 3 years experience. That sounds better. Sounds like someone who could be interested in this opportunity. He focuses on backend. He knows PHP. He knows Laravel. He used it for at least 3 years effectively. So he could be a good fit. Let me open up one more. Patrick or David, Michael. PHP developer. So backend, PHP, 1, 2, 3 years of experience. 3 years of experience could be. This could be a good fit. So again, not distracted with front end, not much information about React or Angular or whatnot, which is all right. We are looking for someone who specializes on the backend part of web development. So yeah, this also looks good. So we found a few profiles of people who, some of them are apparently a great fit, some of them are on the edge, some of them seem to be a little more overqualified, but that's, you know, never hurts really to ask. What do you guys think? Who do you like most? Patrick or David? PHP developer, skilled in SQL, PHP, web development, Linux servers. So that's the typical Linux, Apache, MySQL stack. PHP developer. So he's also a good fit. Look, 2 years plus 2 years, 4 years, great fit. We need to check if he uses Laravel. Most likely yes. There is also Symfony mentioned, but yeah. So also he could be, I mean, obviously we would be sending more and more messages as soon as we find who is a good fit, right? Then we look for people who meet these requirements and have a similar profile. So I'm just trying to find the perfect match, but we found already a few people who we could message right away, and see if they are interested. PHP developer, PHP developer, PHP. Also on the front end, he uses Angular. So he is more in a full stack kind of a position, or he was for 2 months, for 2 years. And for the last year, he's a PHP only developer with Laravel. So maybe not enough. We are looking at 2 years of experience. That's not enough. That's still a little too junior. So now, just coming back through these profiles that we have opened, we are looking at David with about 3 years of experience with PHP and Laravel. So that's a good catch. Or Patrick with 3.5 years PHP and backend. So he could also be a good fit. Backend, PHP, also a good fit. And this developer 4, 5, this is 6 years, probably too much. So I'll close his profile. It does not mean that we should not approach him. It's just now when we are like really identifying the best profile, I'm sort of going for perfection, a PHP developer, and for the perfect match. PHP, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, also a little too much. So I'll close his profile. And Jan, 6 years, that's also too much. He would be way too expensive. Maxim, 2 years, full stack developer. It's probably also, it would be worth messaging him. Could be worth, because he's in Czech Republic. Yeah, he's in Prague. 2, 3, 4 years, so also good. So we could message right away these 4 people and let them know that we have this interesting opportunity to work as a backend PHP Laravel developer for an exciting startup, remotely, but build some really cool platform, right? We need to identify what is interesting about it, because there are thousands and thousands of other jobs where the company is looking for a PHP backend developer. So we need to go an extra mile in figuring out how to make it exciting when you are approaching a person, when you are on the call with someone. So that's what I always do, right? Like usually I follow some script where I connect somehow on a personal level with the through, for example, the fact that I know the company, or I know the engineering team, or I know the CTO, or I was reading some article somewhere, right? So I can say, hey, I saw the platform, it's great. Now they're looking for a PHP developer who will be creating the RESTful APIs for the developers on the front end. And it's a really cool opportunity because they won some award. And now I'm just making it up. They have not won any award, but they got some fundraising, which is also a good selling point for developers. So you can use the information that you find right here. They are developing an online platform that acts as a digital mentor for aspiring entrepreneurs. And you can just say something like, and dear developer, a lot of people want to become entrepreneurs going forward. This is a huge trend. So you can be a part of this transition and help more entrepreneurs become successful entrepreneurs through this new platform. And by the way, Duolingo or Headspace are massively successful companies that have millions and millions of users. And developers who work for these companies are also sought after by other companies just because of the interest that these companies have been generating for the last months or years. Cool. All right. So what do we do, guys? Do you have any questions about this position, the PHP, the backend, some of these keywords? We see here FE or LAMP or REST API. Many of them you recognize by now, especially those of you who went through my program, right? Like you are like, oh my gosh, I saw it hundreds of times, so I know it all. So that's great. That's very cool. It's at the end of the day, if you just look at recruitment, it's not too difficult, right? With proper training, with proper onboarding, because now, and that's actually good. If you just look at this and you are like, oh my gosh, like why is Michael talking so much about PHP? Like, of course, it's so obvious now, right? Like if you feel this, that's great. That's great because you cross the point when you start recognizing these patterns and these keywords and these acronyms, and it feels like, of course, right? Like who doesn't know this, right? So that's great. At the same time, a lot of people may open it up and still be like, what does this mean? What is backend? What is PHP? So for those of you who are still confused, don't forget that there are these mind maps that can help you. You can go to itrecruitermindmaps.com and get these mind maps, which will help you structure your thoughts and understand the IT landscape. So I'll just type it here. If you guys don't have it, you can get it anytime. And as soon as we have the new updated version, you will obviously receive it. recruitermindmaps.com. So you can open it up, itrecruitermindmaps.com, and get these mind maps. So everything is easier, obviously, when you know this terminology, and then you will feel like, wow, this is a no-brainer. Give me something harder. So who knows? Maybe next week we will be looking at a cybersecurity position, and it's quite likely, by the way, just because I have submitted one cybersecurity specialist to one of our clients. So maybe I'll choose this position for the next session next week. What do you guys think? Will it be a good position to analyze? It will not be the easy one. It will be the slightly more difficult. So I guess I'll need to cover some of these cybersecurity basics. But that's why we meet here, right? So we can discuss it. And when I say discuss, it's sort of a monologue. But if you have any question, you can ask, obviously, in chat. So it will be good. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Thanks, Mocht, for feedback and suggestions. And yeah, so I guess we can wrap it up today. We analyzed this job opening. We saw who to look for. We went through some of these keywords. We were going through several profiles to find the best potential candidates, and we found a few. So yeah, so that's great. You probably see by now that recruitment in IT is not rocket science. There are a lot of keywords, a lot of terminology, but once you get used to it, then you know, everything gets easy with practice. So let's practice. We will meet here same time, same place next week, hopefully without the technical glitch. I was also just reloading, and then at some point it worked. So hopefully next week it will just work flawlessly. So thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and stay safe, because you know, it's not just COVID, but it's also the heat and fires and everything. So Philippos, the colleague of mine from Greece, could tell stories about it. So hopefully you guys are safe and enjoy the summertime. Thanks, Valentina, and have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.